There are thousands of Australian men right now driving home through traffic knowing they did almost everything they were told to do correctly. They worked hard, they stayed loyal and learned a trade. They put in overtime and even showed up exhausted. They kept moving forward because that's what men were taught to do. Keep working, keep providing. They kept carrying pressure quietly and eventually life would become easier. That was the deal. Sacrifice your younger years now so later on you finally get to breathe. And for a while, it honestly looked like that plan might actually work. Then you get married. You buy the house and have kids. You build routines and responsibilities. You build a future that feels permanent. Most men don't even notice how quickly it happens. One minute you're young and optimistic and talking about what life might become, then suddenly your entire existence revolves around repayments, school fees, fuel prices and maintenance bills. You take on overtime shifts, making sure everybody else is okay. And slowly, without even noticing it, surviving pressure becomes your personality. You stop buying things for yourself. You stop thinking too far ahead because there's always another problem waiting around the corner. Another bill, another repair. Then one day you look around and realize half your life disappeared while you were busy working. And then for many men, life resets completely. The marriage ends, the house disappears, the savings get divided and lawyers get paid. Child support begins, and suddenly a man in his 50s finds himself rebuilding life from scratch at the age he thought things were finally supposed to become easier. Nobody really prepares men for that psychologically. The financial damage is brutal, but the emotional damage is worse. Because now you're older, you're more tired than you used to be. You're still working. Still paying for everything. They're still waking up in the dark pulling work boots on while wondering where the finish line actually is. And for the most part, these men won't even tell anybody they're struggling. They'll joke around at work, laugh at smoko, talk shit about football or politics for 10 minutes straight. Because along the way, many men learned that nobody is coming to rescue them. So they adapt. They lower their expectations and convince themselves that exhaustion is normal. They keep working because stopping isn't an option. They start checking prices before buying food. They notice the change in fuel prices immediately. Small expenses become irritating, and you hesitate before buying coffee. You start calculating everything in your head first. And retirement stops looking like a peaceful change. It starts to look terrifying. Especially if you're still renting later in life. Because once rent enters the equation, the math gets real ugly. You can work your entire life in Australia now and still end up financially trapped near the end of it. Not because these men failed. Not because they're lazy. But because modern life became brutally expensive while everybody was just busy surviving it. And after decades of carrying this pressure, a lot of men become something they never expected to become. Really exhausted. The kind of exhaustion that builds slowly over decades and sits heavy in your chest. The kind that follows you home from work. A level of exhaustion that you can no longer overcome or outrun. And then, one day, they stumble across a comparison like this. Australian rent versus Southeast Asian rent. Australian food prices versus local meals overseas. Constant financial pressure versus actual breathing room. And it doesn't feel extravagant, it just feels achievable. For the first time in years, a real life starts looking possible. Not luxurious or excessive, just manageable. And that distinction matters. These men are not fantasizing about yachts and sports cars. They're thinking about walking through a supermarket without stress weighing them down. About ordering a meal without checking the price first. About putting fuel in the car or bike without thinking about what they need to sacrifice to do that. About waking up in the morning and not immediately thinking about bills. About existing somewhere that doesn't feel financially hostile every single day. And after enough years of pressure, even very ordinary things start feeling emotional. A quiet coffee, a warm night, a full fridge, a cheap meal near the water. A life where your nervous system finally calms down after decades of carrying that stress. And that's why Southeast Asia hits some men emotionally the moment they experience it. Not because it's perfect, it's not, but because the pressure eases. Food becomes affordable again, living each day stops feeling expensive. You can sit near the water, hear scooters in the distance, eat fresh food, feel warm air at night, and suddenly you realize your nervous system has been stuck in survival mode for years without you even noticing. You start sleeping deeper, smiling more, thinking more clearly, and after decades of carrying all that stress, peace can feel unfamiliar. Some people can completely misunderstand. A lot of these men are not abandoning their families. They're trying to avoid becoming burdens to them. Because there's humiliation in growing older and realizing your retirement plan is basically counting dollars while pretending everything is okay. So maybe instead, you live somewhere your money stretches further, somewhere manageable. And once or twice a year you fly home. You spend time with the kids. You spend time with your grandkids. And honestly, that starts sounding richer than sitting alone in a cold rental stressing about power bills. Because eventually every man reaches the same uncomfortable question: how many good years are actually left? Your knees won't improve forever. Your energy won't magically return. Your health is not guaranteed. And one day you quietly realize you spent most of your life postponing happiness until later. Later when work settles down. Later when the mortgage gets smaller. Later when retirement finally arrives. But for a lot of men, later never really comes unless they make a decision themselves. So some men stay here. Some men will go. Some will never leave Australia physically, but mentally they're already somewhere else while they sit in traffic watching rain hit the windscreen after another day of work. And maybe that's the real story here. Not men chasing fantasy, not men abandoning responsibility, just ordinary Australian blokes quietly trying to salvage a peaceful life before they run out of time to enjoy one. Because maybe the real retirement dream isn't about becoming wealthy and living an extravagant lifestyle. Maybe it is simply waking up somewhere that life can still feel manageable. A Western man will almost never say out loud, "I'm scared of growing old like this." He won't sit his mates down over a beer and admit he's terrified of renting at 70, terrified of struggling, terrified of becoming invisible. Instead, he'll say something less obvious. Something safer. Been looking at another place lately, in Southeast Asia. This is your mate, father, or grandfather, considering his life options, and has been for a while.